Alright, so we went over the accelerometer API. Now I want to jump right into the geolocation API, which allows us to get positions of whoever's using our app. We can get just a one-time snapshot of the position, latitude and longitude, as well as other things, or we could actually have a watch position method that will run continuously as the device moves. So this is going to be a really simple implementation. The next section we're going to deal with geolocation and Google Maps, so we'll be able to map our position onto a Google map right from our app. So let's just get into it. We're going to just paste in a starter template. Alright, so we just have we're adding our event listener of device ready, and when that's ready it's going to call this function here on device ready, and here's where we want to put navigator dot geolocation dot get current position. Okay, so that's the API to get the user's current position, and this takes two callback functions. We'll say on success and on error. Okay, so we need to write these two callback methods. So function what is it, on success, and this is going to take a parameter called position, and we can use that inside of our method to get the coordinates. So let's create a variable called geo element, and we're going to set that to document dot get element by ID, and that's going to be geodata. Okay, so all we need to do for that is we need to go to the body. Let's get rid of this and let's do an H1 tag. And then we want a div with the ID of, what was it, geodata. Alright, and in there we'll just say getting location data. Okay. Alright, so now that we have that geo element variable, we want to insert content into it. We can do that with inner HTML. So geo element dot inner HTML equals, and we're going to put quite a bit in here. So we're going to break this up. And let's say latitude, and we got to concatenate onto that. We can use this position dot chords dot latitude. So that's how this is used. That's how you can use these values. I'm just going to add on a line break. Actually, we want a plus here, so we got quite a few values. Alright, so the next one is going to be longitude. So let's just change that and this. Okay, longitude. Next we want to do altitude. Okay, accuracy. Here we are. accuracy, heading. So you can see there's a lot of different things you can get with this API you can use in your scripts. Let's see, heading, speed. And we want a timestamp. And I made a mistake here. We can't have these. We're not supposed to have these parentheses. I don't know why I put those there. And then we just want to end this last line with a semicolon. So now what we need to do is create the error callback. So function on error. So if you've dealt with the geolocation API before, then you probably know that there's basically 4 kinds of errors that can be returned. The first one being that you can't get the location because the device doesn't have permission. So with the geolocation API, the user has to allow permission. They'll get a pop-up saying, is it okay to use your location? And if they click deny or they don't click at all, then you could get an error. The second error is if the location can't be determined or isn't possible. So if they're up in the mountains or something like that and they just can't be reached, then you could get that error. The third is that they can't fetch the location within the specified time allocation. Alright, so basically a timeout error. The system will work for a certain amount of time, and when it hits that amount of time, if they still haven't found it, then it's a timeout error. And the last kind of error is unknown. So whatever, if it doesn't fit into any of those 3 criteria, then it'll be 4. And they're represented 1 through 4. And we're going to do that right now with a switch statement. So on error does take a parameter of error. And what we're going to do first is say variable. I'm going to create an error string and set that to nothing. And the next thing we want to do is check for errors. So we can do that with if error.code. Alright, so if we returned any errors, then whatever we write in this block is what'll happen. So what we want to do is create a switch statement, which is kind of like an if statement or an if-else statement, and the switch is going to be on error.code, because this error.code is going to be 1 through 4, and each number pertaining to the error that I just explained. So our switch, and we're going to say case 1, which is if the user denies. So case 1, we're going to say error string equals cannot fetch the location info because we do not have permission. Okay, let's actually bring this down here. I'll just do this so we can see it better. Alright, so that's case 1. And we also need to add a break, because if it is that, in fact, then we need it to break out. We don't want it to keep checking. So next we're going to do case 2. and we're going to say, let's just shorten these up. I'm just going to say the location cannot be determined. And we'll just say here, we don't have permission. Got my indenting a little messed up. Let me just format this real quick. Alright. NetBeans has a really cool format feature, which is Shift-Alt-F. Alright, so we're going to break and do a case 3. Error string is going to be equal to we'll say there was a timeout. Okay, break. And we have the last, which is going to be default, because if it's not 1, 2, or 3, then it's going to be this, the default. Unknown error. Okay. So what we're going to do is, if there's an error, we're obviously not going to get the location, but we want to spit out one of these error messages depending on which one it is. So we want to go to write. Oh, I actually forgot the break here. And we want to go right under here before the last parentheses, and we're going to say variable element equals document dot get element by ID, and that's going to be geodata. So now we can say element dot inner HTML is equal to error string. Alright, so if there's an error, it's going to go through this switch statement, figure out which one it is, and display it on the screen right here. Okay. So if it's successful, we'll get all this put in that div. If it's not, then we'll get the error message. So let's actually save this and go to, we're in Ripple. Let's reload this to load our new script. Getting location data. Take a look at the console. Navigator is not defined. Oh, it's spelt wrong. Navigator. That's on line 13. Here we go. Let's just fix that. Reload. And there's our geolocation data. We get the latitude, longitude, altitude, accuracy, heading, and speed. Now you can upload this app to your PhoneGap testing application. Well, actually, you'd have to upload it. You'd have to push it to your GitHub, and then come over here and update the code, and then download the APK file, just like we did earlier. I'm not going to do that here. I think we should do that in the next section, because in the next section we're going to be plotting our point on a map using a marker, and when we run it in Ripple, it doesn't show the right location. I'm not really sure why, but it doesn't, so we'll actually do a device installation in the next section.